folks. My name is Nick Molnar. I am the Director of Product on Codespaces, and I'm joined here today by my friend and colleague, Tanmai. And I'm really excited to get a chance to chat with her about how she's using Codespaces. Hey, Tanmai.
Hey, Nick. Nice to see you. As Nick said, I'm a Senior Product Manager on Codespaces, and super excited to be here. Nick and I have been working on Codespaces for a while, right? So what's on top of mind, Nick?
I mean, honestly, the thing that's top of mind is your session. You just came off a Mona stage. That was fantastic. So I'm wondering, how are you feeling about that?
Oh, it was an awesome session. Felt amazing to talk about how Codespaces is enabling users really embrace developer tools and processes to operationalize data science and ML. For context, Codespaces is a cloud-based service that enables you create one-click, fully configured dev environments in the cloud. And what I covered really in my session was more focused on how Codespaces could have accelerated some of the early parts of my career. And we looked at how Codespaces could help in scenarios that require you working with ML modules, ML libraries. We looked at the native Jupyter Notebook support, GPU support, which really makes Codespaces the best platform for, just complex models of deep diving into data and whatnot. So yeah, it was a great session.
Yeah, it was a great session. It was really cool to see how Codespaces can be the standardized solution for like traditional developers, but also like this new wave of data science and ML practitioners. So that was really cool. Thanks for sharing that. The other thing that's kind of top of mind is I'm a manager, and so when I see technology like this, I kind of start to think about, well, how do I roll this out to a team? Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, Codespaces is a very developer-focused product. What that means is we really want to ensure that developers are super comfortable as comfortable as they are in their local machine, and also more productive when it comes to a code space, right? So that's where support for different IDEs, bring your own dot files, all of that comes into play. Now, when I speak to enterprises and organizations who think about rolling out Codespaces to a large team, the very first question that comes to mind is, how do we ensure costs are under control and that these environments are compliant and secure?
Yeah.
And that's where we've added support for policies that can be applied for these Codespaces when you create them for organization-owned repos.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. It's important to kind of have buy-in from the developer, but kind of the layers up the organization as well. So with some of these policies, like, do you have some examples of some of them?
Yes. So we have policies for cost control. You can think of admins can set which machine types can be used while creating our-own Codespaces.
Oh, I got it. So like they can say, like, this is the hardware spec that you get for working on this project. We want to make sure you have a great experience. Boom, there you go.
Exactly, you got it. So that helps keep costs consistent. In addition to that, we have policies around compliance and security. So admins can set an idle time for Codespaces. They can set a retention policy for Codespaces. They can also set an allow list of base images that can be referenced when you create a Codespace for org-owned repos. So those are some of the policies that are really enabling orgs scale up confidently, and we're really excited to see that uptake.
Interesting. So I used to live in New York, and I was a consultant there, and I worked for all of these different big companies. I got exposed to a lot of them very quickly, and every one of them had like their own unique quirks about how they had to do compliance or tracking or integration with existing systems. Do policies help with that?
Yes, absolutely. So policies do work for a majority of our customers. And in addition to that, we also have added support for APIs to really help give them a set of management operations that they can use to integrate Codespaces into their existing workflows. So that also helps with really bringing Codespaces into your ecosystem, in addition to ensuring costs are under control and that compliance is being met.
Gotcha. It sounds like the policies make the easy things easy, and then APIs and CLI integration make the hard things kind of possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, another one of the things that I remember from my days of consulting were these really kind of gnarly code bases, legacy code bases, where maybe there was multiple repos that I had to stitch together on my machine to build the app, or multiple apps in one repo.
Yeah.
How does Codespaces handle those kinds of scenarios?
Yeah, so Codespaces supports a complex range of scenarios. I mean, GitHub.com is a great example, right? We have a huge monolith with a bunch of services in a single monorepo. And then as we've grown as a company, we're trying to remove some services into their own repos, which puts us into this multi-repo scenario. So we have two solutions there. For monorepos, we have added the ability to create multiple dev containers for a single project. So with that, when a developer requests for a code space, they can select which container configuration they want to select while creating it. And then for multi-repos, we've added the support to specify in your dev container as to which repositories this configuration should interact with. So once a code space is created, we do stitching of the repositories, we do token management, and the developer can simply clone into those projects, push back into the repos that they want, and really be productive end to end there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah, I remember working on one of these code bases in particular. That was this mono repo, and this is a few years ago. This is right around the time where we were switching to Git from SVN, and part of the reason why we did that is because creating a branch on that huge code base took forever. Like, time to take a lunch break, I have to create a branch amount of time, right? And so when we switched to Git, creating those branches were cheap and fast. Now, I know Codespaces is on GitHub, and so it leverages Git.
Yep.
Does that mean I have no performance concerns there for large repos?
Now, you're right. Git does make checking out branches super fast. But I would love to highlight that Codespaces is a fully featured IDE, right? So when you look at complex code bases and you want to create an IDE for it, typically, there are too many tasks that you need to clone the project, you need to install a bunch of dependencies, run a bunch of scripts. So it can take a while to
Yeah, you're right. As a code base grows in complexity, I guess it does get more and more dependencies over time.
Correct. So we are partnering with GitHub Actions there to come up with a workflow that runs on a nightly basis, for example, and pre-builds your code space for you. So it pre-executes all of those complex tasks up front. And when a developer requests for a code space, they have access to it within seconds, regardless of how complex or large your code base is. So yeah.
I mean, that pre-building thing, that sounds valuable for even some of my small side projects, just like some simple projects.
Absolutely. Yes. We do recommend all repo admins to check it out. You can enable pre-builds by going to your repo settings. You can set it up for a branch and also decide how often that workflow runs, whether it is nightly or on every push and so on and so forth. So it's up to you.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, I know for me, NPM install takes a lot longer than clone these days. So
Yeah,
pre-building that would be
absolutely.
fantastic. So speaking of admins, is there anything else that they need to know kind of from your experience chatting with orgs and enterprises?
Yeah, for sure. So any org admins listening here, you can enable Codespaces by going to your org settings. You can set it up for select members, all members, or even outside collaborators if you have a bunch of contractors, onboarding for a short period of time. You can also set a spending limit in addition to the cost control policies to manage budgets. And then if you are an individual who's not part of an organization, we just announced that Codespaces are rolling out GA this week with up to 60 hours of free included usage.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, definitely take advantage of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's really never been a better time to try Codespaces. So go head over to github.com/Codespaces and give it a try. So, hey, great job on MonoStage. Thanks so much for running over here and taking the time to chat with me and share kind of what we learned in the ML space, how organizations are adopting Codespaces, and how really it can change the way that you do open source on nights and weekends, but also the way that you're working 9 to 5 with the support of your organization and Codespaces. So thanks for coming, Tom May.
Absolutely. This was
I appreciate you so
fun.
much. Have a good one.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.